The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The artists are all very different, but they share one crucial virtue in common: the undying spirit of rock and roll.
When I really fell in love with Depeche Mode, we were all playing this radio festival, and they started to play I Feel You, and Martin had his black angel wings on, and I thought it was one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. And that's when I became a proper Depeche maniac. I don't know what the right fan collective word is, but I'm one of them.
I actually vividly remember hearing Enjoy the Silence coming out of a car. I was around 10 years old when that record came out. It sounded like it was from outer space.
One of my favorite songs is a more recent song called Precious. When I first heard it, my whole body went into jealousy shutdown, which is what happens when I hear something I really like.
Personal Jesus, it's just a perfect rock and roll song. And there's a magic trick in writing a song that direct and that simple, and it absolutely bangs.
He was Machiavellian in the best sense, and Machiavelli said, I don't want to maintain the status quo, I want to overthrow it, and we like that about him. I think I lived with him part of the time during the Hotel California album, and it was encouraging for us to have him there because we knew that he was on the phone working for us. He would never really critique, he would never really say, nah. When we wrote something good, he would always acknowledge that it was good. You know, he was a great cheerleader. It was like teamwork. If the shit hits the fan, you know that you can always call him.
There are very few lyricists in any genre who can tell a story as well as Biggie. My wife's favorite Biggie song is I Got a Story to Tell, because he tells you the same story two ways. He tells it to you in verse, and then he tells it to you in prose. Each one is equally gripping. That's what great artists do. They tell their truth so specifically, it becomes universal. He more than earns a seat at the table. He sits at the table with his crown on.
Mark Bolan, he kept rock and roll alive at a time when rock and roll had gone into the progressive era and it was becoming funk rock and roll, jazz rock and roll. He was doing everything but staying kind of true to that kind of rockabilly, the Elvis, Little Richard. Inside that T-Rex music was all of those characters. So for me personally, it's like he was lionizing all the greats of rock and roll with his own music.
The ultimate goal of any artist is to have like a singular voice, completely unmistakable from anyone else. You hear one note of it and you go, ah, Nine Inch Nails.
I love when people are ahead and the music industry just tries their best to keep up. Trent has definitely been one of the leaders.
So much music is placebo. It's not nourishment. I find what Trent does nourishing.
It's such a testament to the sound that Nine Inch Nails has created, because the fact it can lean into this pop world and really sound honest and sound natural.
John is he's my first audience. In other words, John sits in the studio and out as a fan first. And he's a guy that when I'm writing for, and I'm writing for all my fans, John Landau is kind of at the front of that line. He has a set of skills that are very mature and sophisticated and that he can bring to any project.
What I liked about the Doobie Brothers is there was all sorts of different guys in the band. You had, the soulful Michael McDonald. You had kind of the motorcycle gang feel of Tom Johnston. Patrick Simmons was a little country folk with a little motorcycle in him. They covered every kind of person in one band.
The Doobies had a southern wildness thing about them that was always so appealing and makes you want to sing right along.
They make people insanely happy. The songs are the soundtrack of all of our lives.
Whitney showed me someone that looked like myself. To pick one Whitney song that sticks out to me, that's like the hardest thing in the world to do for me. But I love the Lord, to I Will Always Love You, to One Moment in Time, to the greatest love of all. See, I told you I couldn't just pick one. To grow up to that and have that as an example, how could I not be inspired?